Part 3. Straight Away. Chapter 1. Monday, during science, a note from the office gets delivered to me. There's a single line scrawled beneath the checked "Report to office immediately" box. Doctor appointment. I'm a little stunned. I knew Mom was going to get me an appointment with Dr. Wells, but I wasn't expecting one so soon. I strap on my backpack and Fiona helps me down the ramp. I'm crunching my way around school today, and it's been going okay, except for the ramps. I have a tough time with them, which I find strangely ironic. I'll be fine, I say to Fiona as she starts to follow me to the office. You need to go in there and take notes for us, okay? She hesitates, but I shoo her off and hobble across the campus. It's quite a distance to the office, and I'm relieved to finally get there. The backpack has become heavier with every step, and my arms are sore. But my mom's waiting for me, full of energy. Dr. Wells had an 11:30 cancellation. If we hurry, we'll make it. We do hurry, and we do make it. And then we fidget in the waiting room for almost an hour. The meeting itself is short. When we're finally in an examining room, Dr. Wells appears almost immediately. "Hello, Jessica," he says, then wheels over to me on his doctor's stool. He inspects my stump, prods it, measures it, then says, "Outstanding." He whips a prescription pad from his white coat pocket. "You are definitely ready for a preparatory prosthesis, and in record time." He scribbles on the pad, then peels off the prescription and hands it to me. "Good work, and congratulations." He's already on his way out the door when my mom says, "So we take this to Hank Kruber?" "Or any other prosthetist." Who would you recommend?" Dr. Wells stops in the open doorway. "Hank's a good choice, and you do want to stay local. Jessica will be needing regular adjustments, especially since she's almost certainly still growing." When we get home, my mom looks up prosthetists in the phone book, and what she discovers is that if we are going to stay local, Hank Kruber is our only choice. "Hankenstein's fine, Mom," I tell her. She turns to look at me. "Hankenstein?" I shrug. My head was in a bad place in the hospital. He thought a pipe leg was something I should be thrilled about, but if he can get me walking, let's go. "Hankenstein," she chuckles, then finds the number and makes the call. When she's done, she says, "The receptionist was so nice. She'll work us in at 10 tomorrow morning. She says to wear shorts." So the next day, I miss more school and report to Hankenstein's lab. It's on a busy part of Grand Avenue behind a fenced-off gas station next to a laundromat. The asphalt parking lot is full of potholes and there's trash blown up against the building. A faded blue sign reads, "Quality Orthotics and Prosthetics." So we know we're in the right place. It just feels wrong. My mom unstraps her seatbelt. "Let's just go in and see what we think, okay?" I nod and work myself and my crutches out of the passenger seat. I feel strange in shorts, vulnerable. "If you don't like it here," she whispers near the entrance, "we'll take you someplace else." I know she's just being nice and I don't really have a choice. Still, I'm glad she said it. The waiting room is set up like a doctor's office, only the chairs are plain molded plastic, and instead of carpeting, there's chipped linoleum. There's an odd smell to the place, too. Not bad, just sort of industrial. An elderly couple is already in the waiting room. The man is in a wheelchair and he's holding a fake leg across his lap. His wife is still sitting beside him with her purse in her lap. They look us over without smiling or saying hello, and the old man seems very unhappy, like he'd sooner hurl his leg than wear it. We go up to the reception counter, and I try to ban thoughts of my future from my mind. I do not want to be a crabby old lady holding a leg in my lap. I just don't. The receptionist is younger than my mom. Actually, she's not that much older than I am. Maybe in her early 20s? "Hi," she says across the counter. "You must be Jessica." She's like sunshine through my cloud of uncertainty. I smile and nod. And since she's wearing a name tag, I say, "And you must be Chloe." We both laugh, and suddenly I feel more at ease. Nothing's changed but the vibe in the room, but it helps. She gives my mom a clipboard with paperwork to fill out, then leans forward a little and says to me, "Hank will have you walking again in no time. He's really good." I nod and smile, and in that moment I believe her. Then my mom and I sit in the hard plastic chairs, and I'm confronted with the reality of the old man and his leg again. He just sits there, sullen. His wife just sits there, quiet. Mom's completed about half the paperwork when Chloe appears in the waiting room. She's not wearing a nurse-type smock or shoes, just regular clothes, jeans, a knit top, and flats. The only thing that gives away that she works there is her name tag. She smiles at the old man and says, "You can come on back, Mr. Benson." His response is a frown and a grunt. It is also apparently a signal for his wife to roll him out of the waiting room. Chloe tosses me a little shrug and follows them. Then we sit there for what seems like an eternity. Chloe splits her time between her desk and somewhere in the back. She apologizes several times for how long it's taking and finally comes out into the waiting room and sits beside me. "He's almost done." She looks at my mom. "I really didn't think it would take this long. I'm sorry." "That's all right," my mom says. "I appreciate you working us in." Chloe looks at me, looks away, looks at me again, and finally says, "Things will change. From here on, they'll get better." She seems to be choosing her words carefully, like each one carries a meaning beyond its definition. She gives a nervous laugh. "I don't usually come out and accost the patients. Sorry. It's just that Hank told me about you, and I can relate." Again, there's more to these words than I can puzzle out. I'm trying, but I'm not quite there. My mom's trying too. "Was somebody in your family in an accident?" Chloe shakes her head. Chapter 2. Mr. Benson leaves in his wheelchair, his leg still in his lap. He looks even grumpier than he did before. "Remember to practice with it, Mr. Benson," Chloe calls after him. He doesn't say a word. Chloe smiles at me. "Your turn." As she leads us down the hallway, I watch her legs. Her movements are smooth, assured. Part of me doesn't quite believe she's got a fake leg. The rest of me is enormously encouraged. She takes us to a small room with a patient table and a service sink. The floor is stained dusty white, like a chalkboard that won't come clean. It's not just the floor either. The cupboard doors, the sink, the chairs. There's chalky whiteness everywhere. "Just sit up here," Chloe says, pulling fresh paper over the table. "Hank will take some measurements, do a cast." She smiles at me. "Nothing that hurts." When she's gone, my mom whispers, "That's amazing. I sure can't tell." Hank walks in. He's the same guy I remember from my hospital nightmare. Stocky, bald, partially preoccupied, like half of him is somewhere else. I notice his shoes, his pants, his shirt. They're all smudged, chalky white. Jessica, he says, like the other half of him has finally arrived. He seems genuinely happy to see me. Good to see you looking so well. He turns to my mom. Hello, Mrs. Carlyle. How are you? Mom nods, but he's waiting for a real answer, so she says, Better than the last time you saw me. Good. He scoots a chair up to me and says, So let's get you fitted for a leg, shall we? He has me take off my shrinker's sock and my left shoe and sock too. Then he starts measuring. He uses tools like I've seen my dad use. A metal caliper, a tape measure, something that looks like a carpenter's square. He takes all sorts of measurements of my stump side and of my good side too. And when he's all done, he nods and says, And what kind of shoe do you normally wear? I point to my running shoe. These. He picks up the shoe and makes a note of the size, then says, Okay, we're ready to make a cast of your residual limb. From that, we'll be able to make a plaster model, and from that, we'll build your first socket. Mom asks, The socket's the part that goes over her? Over the residual limb? That's right. Once we've got a comfortable socket, we'll add the pylon and the foot. But first things first, we do a cast. He goes to a cupboard, pulls out a box of supplies, and hands me a long, simple belt with a sliding clasp. Fasten this around your waist, he says, then proceeds to untangle 3 adjustable straps that have little clamps on both ends. He puts the straps aside, then produces a short, very thin stocking, which he pulls onto my stump. It's smooth and soft, almost silky. We cover your residual leg with this first, he says, because it makes it so much easier to remove the cast. Next, he attaches the stocking to the belt around my waist with the 3 straps, and when he's sure it's secure and the stocking is on smooth and tight, he says, Just a few markings and we're ready. Right on top of the stocking, he begins marking places around my knee, along what's left of my shin, my scar, points where bones stick out. The pencil he's using is blue, and when he's done, the stocking looks like a little kid scribbled on it. These markings will transfer to the cast, he explains. They'll show me where we can put pressure and also where we should relieve it. Next, he fills a small bowl with water and brings it and 2 rolls of chalky-looking white gauze over to the table. Have you ever had a cast? I shake my head. It doesn't take long. He dunks one of the gauzy rolls into the bowl of water, and when it's wet, he starts wrapping it around my leg, spiraling from the knee down to the end of the stump and back up. This has plaster of Paris in it, he tells me as he wraps. The water creates an exothermic reaction. Do you feel it warming up? I nod, because my stump is getting warmer and warmer. It's not uncomfortable, more like a hot towel wrap. He uses both rolls, then tells me to relax my leg, and begins massaging the plaster of Paris around. We need good contact, he says, so we get an accurate impression. When he's done massaging the plaster, he smooths it down with his hands, then presses his thumbs around the bottom part of my kneecap, getting a good impression of that area. There, he says. Now we wait a few minutes for it to harden, and that's it. Easy, huh? He cleans up while we wait. There are plaster drips here and there, including on his shoes, and a scuff of it on his pants. He chuckles when he sees me watching him. Yes, it's hopeless. he says, but I still try. I can feel the cast start to lose its heat, and after a few more minutes, Hank checks it, then unclamps the straps and says, "Ready?" I nod, and after some gentle wiggling, the cast slides right off. He looks it over and smiles. "Beautiful." Mom asks, "So, how long does it take for you to make the socket?" "Usually about a week." He looks from her to me, then says, "But how about I shoot for Friday?" "That would be great," she says. He nods. "We'll give you a call when it's ready." I tie on my left shoe and gather my crutches, and on the way out I run into Chloe in the hallway. "Oh, excuse me," she says, and dances out of my way. We smile and say our goodbyes, and as I hobble out to the car on my crutches, I'm filled with a very strange feeling, one I thought I might never feel again. Hope. Chapter 3. I missed math on Monday because of my appointment with Dr. Wells, and although Fiona got the homework for me, I had trouble with the lesson and don't want to miss another day of math if I can help it. So after my fitting at Hank's, Mom and I go through the Taco Bell drive-thru, and I gobble down lunch and get back to school in time for 5th and 6th periods. I manage to catch Fiona up on the day's events during 5th, and I make her laugh, too, by calling it Hankenstein's Lab. "Wow," she says as she's walking with me over to the math wing. "Chloe sounds amazing." She is. If she hadn't knocked on her leg, I would never have known which one was fake. So I hobble into math in a fine mood and sit in a chair that I pull up next to Rosa. "I missed you yesterday," she says, and as I'm watching her lips, working at decoding her words, she adds, "I was a little worried." "I'm fine," I assure her, and I feel good that she missed me. So I start babbling about being fitted for a leg at Hankenstein's lab. She laughs too, and I'm really enjoying that I'm making people laugh instead of squirm or turn away. I'm also feeling good that Rosa missed me and was worried about me. Something about it is incredibly sweet. Then the tardy bell rings. "Pass your homework all the way over," Miss Rucker commands. She's looking even more stony-faced than usual, sizing up the class from behind her podium. "All the way over?" somebody asks. "We're not grading them?" "All the way," Miss Rucker replies. "Oh boy," I grumble, because my paper is incomplete. Barely started is more accurate. I'd planned to get help from Fiona, but it hadn't happened, and I'd planned to fill in the blanks during the explanation, like a lot of people do, but there's no getting away with that now. Miss Rucker strolls toward us down the aisle, collecting papers as she approaches. I know better than try to explain about going to Dr. Wells and getting my leg cast today. I know that in Miss Rucker's eyes, no excuse could validate such a miserable attempt at the homework. Rosa sees my paper, and her eyes grow wide. She passes hers to me and whispers something, but I can't understand it, and I'm not in the right frame of mind to try. Instinctively, I place her work on top of mine. The penmanship is jagged, like her hands can't quite produce a smooth line. The numbers are a combination of miniature lightning bolts and uneven curves, but the work, the process, the steps, they're all tidy and easy to follow, with the answers clearly boxed. Ms. Rucker takes the papers from me, inspecting them as she turns and walks toward the front of the classroom. It takes only 3 steps for her to stop and level a look at me over her shoulder. The look lasts maybe 2 seconds, but in that time she manages to convey disappointment, doubt, and resentment. Here she let me slide on half the problems for all the days I was absent. Why can't I show more effort? I want to scream because I've missed a month of school, that's why. Because I just about died, that's why. Because everything I do is hard now, that's why. Instead, my chin quivers and I turn away. Rosa passes me a note. I can help you after school. My mom's picking me up right after, I write. Way inside, though, I know this is an excuse. The truth is, I'd rather have Fiona help me. I can understand Fiona. She's my friend. She's comfortable. Rosa writes, call me if you want, and jots down her phone number. I smile and nod, and tuck away the note, then turn my attention to the board where Miss Rucker has begun the lesson. It's hard to concentrate, though. I sailed into class feeling sunny and hopeful, but now here I am, crashed against the rocks again. Chapter 4. That night I bury myself in homework, but at bedtime I still don't feel like I've made a dent. There's so much reading to do, especially in language and history, but what worries me most is math, especially the new assignments. Today's math, yesterday's math, they're adding up quickly to tomorrow's headache. I try calling Fiona, but can't reach her. First, she's at the track, then she's out with her mother, then she's busy with something else. At 10:30, I give up and tell myself that I'll get her to help me in the morning. But in the morning, Fiona calls to say she overslept, and Mom barely gets me to school on time. There's absolutely no chance for Fiona to help me during the morning classes, and at lunch she rushes off to some meeting. Hey, I call after her. I really need help with math. I'm sorry, she calls back. If I could get out of this, I would. She's gone, and I'm left leaning on my crutches, not even knowing where she's going that's so important. Darn, I grumble, and I'm feeling very frustrated as I hobble toward the courtyard to eat lunch Mom packed me. I'm hating math, hating Miss Rucker. Plus, I don't even know where I'm going to eat or who I'm going to sit with. It's been ages since I've had lunch in the courtyard, and the closer I get to it, the more I do not want to go there, especially without Fiona. I'm also feeling really dumb about Rosa. Why didn't I call her last night? So I'm mad at Miss Rucker and mad at myself, and I'm hobbling by the 400 wing when I remember Rosa eats in room 402. I stop for a second, then turn and find the room, and when I peek through the door, there's Rosa in her wheelchair, laughing with 2 other girls in wheelchairs. There are also 2 boys and a teacher in the classroom. The boys are working on an impressively large Lincoln log house that's made out of pretzel sticks. The teacher's reading a book. Hey, Rosa calls, beaming a bright smile my way. I hobble in and sit in a chair near her. I am so lost in math. I'll help you, she says. Her voice sounds a little like voices do when you try to talk underwater, but now it's music to my ears. Oh, thank you, I say and pull out the assignment. First, Rosa introduces me to her friends. This is Leisha and Panny. The guys are Illy and Twent. I translate this to mean Alicia and Penny, Billy and Trent, but I'm not entirely sure. And I'm Mrs. Wall, the teacher calls with a friendly wave. You must be Jessica. I nod and smile, but I feel a little uncomfortable that she already knows who I am. Rosa gets right down to the math. She shows me her homework and points me through the steps as she explains the problems. Okay, to find the first three iterates of this function, here's what you do. I struggle to understand her, especially since she's speaking math, a language I'm already having trouble with. But seeing her work really helps, and at the end of each problem, she forces me to get it by making me do the problem on my own without looking at her paper. She's patient and encouraging, and every time I solve a problem right, she says, "See, you're getting it." And as I begin solving them on my own, she smiles and says, "See, it's easy." And with her help, that's what it becomes. Well, almost anyway. When the warning bell rings, I pack up my things and Rosa says, "I can help you any time." "Thanks," I say back, and this time I know that I'll take her up on it. "I can come over too," she says. I hesitate, wondering how in the world that would work or how she could even offer. It would probably be a lot easier for me to go over to her house, but again, my mind is defaulting to relying on Fiona for help. Then she totally surprises me by saying, "I would love to meet your dog. He seems so happy." I blink at her. "How do you know my dog?" I'm feeling very strange, not fully grounded, and it flashes through my mind that I've been stalked by a girl in a wheelchair. She laughs at my expression. "You used to run by my house. I live on Marigold, the house with the mermaid fountain." For some reason, she's becoming easier to understand. I barely have to decipher at all. "I know that house. You're about half a mile from me. I'm on Harkin." "See," she says with a lopsided smile as she motors toward the door. "We're neighbors." Mrs. Wall calls, "Bye, girls," as we leave, and adds, "Come back any time, Jessica. You're always welcome." "Thanks," I call back. Then I hobble off to class. Chapter 5. That night, I have the running dream again. When I wake up, I cry, like I always do, but my tears are interrupted by the memory of something new in the dream. A mermaid fountain. A mermaid fountain and Rosa waving from her porch as I run by. In the dream, I don't really see her. I don't turn my head and look. She's a ghost on the porch, a cloudy vapor to my right. But I know she's there. I know it's her. I wonder about her appearing in the dream. The dream's been the same for so long, and this new dimension feels a little invasive. This is my dream, my escape to the place I love most in the world. The roads, the river, the trees, the bridge. Sherlock gives me a hopeful nudge and lets out a soft whine. "Sorry, boy," I tell him. "After school, we'll throw the ball, okay?" He hasn't given up on our old routine, but seems to like the new one just fine. I give him a hug and a nuzzle, and it crosses my mind that after I get my leg, I could walk him over to Rosa's. The thought, in its own small way, makes me feel better. Chapter 6. There's something different about Fiona. Something radiant. She denies it, but I don't believe her. "Are you in love?" I finally ask during science. She assures me she's not. "Then what is going on with you?" I whisper. "And don't tell me nothing." She finally caves, but only a little. "You'll see." "See what?" I demand, but she refuses to say any more. So now I'm suspecting that it's not about her at all, that it's about me. But what could it possibly be? More cupcakes? She leads me to Kiro's room at lunch. Why? I want to know. What's going on? She's bursting at the seams. Kiro has something amazing to show you. What? I demand. Stop asking. This is his surprise. From the build-up, I'm expecting a room full of people, but it's just Kiro. Kiro and his laptop. Kiro has ancestors from Poland and Ethiopia. He has dark skin and light eyes and the most beautiful hands I've ever seen. The fingers are long and graceful, and they do a little flip upward near the tips. But the overall impression is one of strength, that his hands could move mountains. Kiro's hands are busy on the keys of his laptop when Fiona and I come in. Jessica, he says with a smile, then hits a few keys and turns to Fiona. How much did you tell her? Nothing. He grins. I'm impressed. You should be, she says with a laugh. Will one of you please tell me what this is about? He motions me over. Have a seat. So I sit in his seat and watch his computer screen as he activates a YouTube video. It's footage of a track, a race, some big event. The commentator is speaking in a language I don't know. Italian? What is this? Shh, Kiro says. Just watch. There's a close-up now. A close-up of something I don't recognize. It's got little nails sticking out of a rubberized pad, and the pad is connected to a long, dark piece of curved metal. And then the camera pulls back, and I see that there are two of these spiky padded pieces of curved metal, and that they're attached to legs. It's a runner? Yes. A runner on curved, spiked feet. That's Oscar Pistorius, Kiro says softly. He's a 400-meter sprinter and a double below-knee amputee. Those are running prostheses. He runs on those? I gasp, because it doesn't seem possible. His legs are sickles, hooks. I don't understand how he can even stand on them, let alone run. And yet he walks along the track, and then he gets down in the starting blocks. I hold my breath, not believing my eyes. Kiro leans in and points out the other runners. Look what he's competing against. Every other runner getting into blocks has two legs. Two flesh and blood legs. The runners are set and the gun goes off, and the guy with hook legs fires out of the blocks just like the rest of the runners. I watch, my heart pounding. He can run. He can run. And not only can he run, he's fast. While other runners struggle through rigor mortis bend, he gains ground, finishing the race in second place. My jaw drops when the screen displays his time. A 46.9? I gasp. Kiro grins. Impressive, even on regular legs. Kiro shows me two more videos. One with a woman named Amy, who's missing one leg below the knee just like me and runs marathons, and another with an amputee my age racing for her track team. When they're done, he closes the laptop and looks right at me. What do you think? What do I think? Thoughts race through my head. It's amazing, unbelievable, and freakish. Those people look like cyborgs. Since I lost my leg, I've wanted to cover up, hide what I'm missing, make others forget there's something different about me. There'd be no covering that up. Is running worth becoming a cyborg? Kiro gently prods me for an answer. What I'm asking is, would you want one? My heart races at the thought of being able to run again, and my moment of doubt vanishes. Yes! He nods. Okay then, here's the situation. Running prostheses are expensive. We already have plenty of problems with insurance companies covering your basic medical issues, but even if we didn't, getting them to pay for one of these is almost certainly out of the question. So we had a team meeting yesterday and formed the Help Jessica Run campaign. Every runner volunteered for at least one of 4 committees: bake sale, raffle, car wash, and community donations. He takes a deep breath. Our goal is to buy you a running leg so you can get back on the track and compete on the team your senior year. I look from Kiro to Fiona and back again. I want to say something, but what can I possibly say? There are no words for this moment, and I'm almost afraid to believe that I actually might be able to run again. Chapter 7. At home, I'm still having trouble believing it's true. I'm going to be able to run again? I watch the YouTube videos on our computer over and over, and slowly it sinks in. I'm going to be able to run again. I make my mother watch them. She's amazed. I have never seen anything like that. I make my sister watch them. She's direct. That is freaky, she says after seeing the clips. It's awesome, I tell her and give her a playful shove. She wants to watch them again, and when we're done, she says, You're really going to get one of those? My team is doing this huge fundraiser, and they're going to buy me one. They're doing bake sale and raffle tickets and car washes. Seriously? Kaylee asks. Seriously. My dad, however, is secretly not convinced. I hear him in the kitchen later, talking to my mom. How are cookies and raffle tickets going to raise $20,000? I hold my breath, eavesdropping from around the corner. $20,000 for a curved piece of metal. The team will never be able to raise that much money. Don't give her doubts, my mom whispers sternly. She's happy. She's hopeful. She needs this. My dad's voice is hoarse as he whispers, But if it's a pipe dream, it's cruel. And what about the hospital bills? And the $20,000 for her regular prosthesis? Does he have any idea what we're going through to cover those bills? I hold my breath harder. 20,000? 20,000? My mind is reeling. If a leg costs that much, what did the hospital cost? For that matter, what did it cost to cut off my real leg? Look, my mom whispers, let's hire that lawyer and let's apply pressure. But let's not say anything negative about the team's plan to raise money. They're just trying to help. The lawyer wants half of whatever settlement we reach, and it might take years. So let's interview another lawyer. And if they tell you the same thing, well, half of something is better than half of what we've got right now. My dad sighs, and I can feel the tiredness that he seems to carry around everywhere. Why can't they just step up to their responsibilities? Haven't we been put through enough? The kitchen falls silent, and even though it's hard to hop quietly, I do my best to hurry away without being found out. And I do get away, but I can't escape the guilt. Maybe the team's money should go to pay my medical bills, or pay for my regular leg. Maybe there really are more important things than running. I feel like such a burden. Is it even fair to hope? Chapter 8. Fiona picks me up for school the next morning, and she's a little chatterbox, which I find exhausting, especially since it feels like I didn't sleep a wink the whole night. "They cost $20,000, I finally blurt. $20,000! She pulls into the student parking lot. "What do?" "Those running legs. I looked it up online." She shrugs. "So we'll raise $20,000. I blink at her for a full minute, then shake my head and slouch in my seat. "You're dreaming." She just smiles at me and starts chattering about something else. First and second periods seem to drag on forever, and at break I seriously consider going home sick. But I've already missed way too much school, so I tough it out, convincing myself that it's important to stay. At lunch, Fiona decides we should eat in the courtyard. "It's gorgeous out today. Who wants to be inside?" She parks me on a bench near a scrawny elm tree where I feel strangely invisible as she goes off to fetch 2 Mandarin chicken salads. Everyone seems to have somewhere to go, someone to see. It's not that people are trying not to look at me. They're just into their own things. It feels like I'm in a movie where everyone has a role and a place and a purpose, and I'm one of those silent extras they pay to sit and look like they're part of the show. I'm relieved when Fiona returns. "Sorry that took so long," she says, handing over my salad. She checks me over. "You doing okay?" I shrug. "I don't know. I was so up yesterday, but I've definitely crashed back to earth today." I snap open the salad lid and sigh. It's nice of the team to want to help, but do you remember how long it took to raise $2,000 for a new discus cage? It was almost 2 years. How are we ever going to raise $20,000? "Look," she says, zigzagging dressing across her salad. "You are not a discus cage. You are a flesh and blood person who this tragic thing has happened to. People will want to help." She smiles at me. "Give them a chance." This should make me feel better, but it doesn't. A dark cloud has formed between me and the dream of running again. A dark cloud called reality. Chapter 9. I have a socket fitting schedule that hangs after school. A socket fitting. I don't really even know what that means. I'm quiet on the drive over, and so is Mom. I wonder what's going on with her and Dad and the whole money issue, but I don't ask. I just watch the road ahead. So does she. The exterior of quality orthotics and prosthetics does nothing to lift my mood. But the instant we go inside, Chloe certainly does. "Jessica," she says from behind the counter, "are you excited?" I can't help but smile, because she sure seems to be. "I guess," I tell her. "Well, come on back. He's ready for you." My mom and I exchange looks as we follow Chloe. No Mr. Benson holding us up this time. Chloe leads us to the same room we were in before, and Hank comes in holding a clear plastic version of the cast he took on Tuesday. My name and the date are written right on it in black marker, and along the back are 2 screws holding the plastic together. He greets us, then has me roll up my pant leg and take off my shrinker sock while he gets a stockingette out of a cupboard. After the stockingette is on, he holds up the plastic cast and says, "So this is your test socket. What we'll do today is check for pressure points, distribution of weight bearing, and fit. If there's anywhere that hurts, be sure to tell me. It should feel snug, and there'll be pressure, but after you get used to that, it shouldn't hurt." He smiles at me. "Ready?" I nod, and he gets down on his knees and slips the socket over my stump. I feel like a freak show Cinderella getting a strange glass slipper put on, but that image vanishes when I realize that the socket feels good. "How is that?" he asks. "Surprisingly comfortable," I tell him. He pushes up on it from the bottom. "How's that?" "Okay," I tell him. He pushes harder. "No pain?" I shake my head. "The clearance here," he says, pointing to the base of the socket, "should be enough so that you don't feel it when the leg is complete and you're standing on it, but not so much that it creates an area where your residual limb can pool with fluids." He nods. "I think we've got a good fit here." Next, he has me bend my knee, and he checks all around it, especially in back. The kneecap is exposed, and the socket is cut away so I can flex, but it does pinch a little behind the knee. "Does this need to come down some?" he asks. "I think so." He goes on to check the socket from all angles, making small marks on the plastic as we go over the pressure points. Then he has me stand and lean my short leg on a big block of wood. It's the first time I've stood on both legs since the accident. "How is that?" "Very strange," I tell him. "But is there pain? Excessive pressure?" Close your eyes and feel it. "Maybe a little right here," I tell him, pointing to a spot on the inside of my knee. He marks it, and when he's sure there are no other spots, he has me sit down again and slips off the socket. "I think we're set. I should have your leg ready a week from today. It will be a temporary prosthesis, Jessica, because your leg is still changing. But after you're trained on the temporary and your residual limb has had a few months to stabilize, we'll do this again, only with parts that are more suited for your lifestyle." "Meaning?" He looks at me. "You're an active young lady. We want to get you a leg that can keep up with you. But first things first, and that is to get you walking." I'm about to ask him what he knows about running legs, but before I can, my mom says, "Could I have a word with you about administrative matters?" He glances from her to me and catches her drift. "Sure, why don't we talk in my office?" So they leave while I pull my shrinker sock back on and pin my pant leg up. I try not to think about what administrative matters might be, because it's clearly about money. I try to block the thought of running from my mind. I try to focus on walking. In 1 week, I'll have a leg. In 1 week, I'll learn to walk again. In 1 week. Chapter 10. It turns out to be a long week. Not because I can't wait to get my leg. I'm looking forward to that, but it also scares me a little. What if it's awful? What if I can't figure it out? What if it falls off during school? No, it's a long week because the track team officially invites me to the meet on Thursday, and I'm terrified of going. But how can I not? Already, the bake sales and the raffle ticket sales have started. Saturday will be the first Help Jessica Run car wash. On the outside, I'm grateful and happy, but inside I know it's an impossible goal. They will never raise $20,000. People tell me all the time that I'm still part of the team. They're all excited to be buying me a leg. They're so nice, so positive. They seem to have no idea what a pipe dream this is. When Thursday arrives, I'm still not ready, but it's Liberty versus Langston, our main rival, and it's on our turf. No buses to get on or traveling to do. All I have to do is hobble over to the track. So easy, and yet so hard. I haven't even seen the track since I've been at school. Not that it's been difficult to avoid. It's out past the gym and the locker rooms, past the basketball courts and the tennis courts and the baseball diamonds. It's the last school structure before empty fields, and it sits on a small rise of land unprotected from the afternoon winds. Jocks snicker at runners. They think it doesn't take much skill to put one foot in front of the other, that anyone can run track. And I guess people like Merrill Abrams contribute to that. But those of us who are serious about it grin and bear a lot more than players in some real sports. Basketball players wouldn't dream of doing wind sprints in the rain. Tennis players call off practice if the courts are even a little wet. Volleyball players won't have anything to do with a cold. And football players? They chalk talk or pump iron when the weather gets wicked. It's the soccer players and the track teams that show all-weather grit. And at Liberty High, the track teams are the only ones of any of the sports to ever win league. And the varsity girls are contenders almost every year. People don't understand why we run. It seems so mindless to them. All you do is go around and around the track. That's the funny thing about running, the deceptive thing about it. It may seem mindless, but it's really largely mental. If the mind's not strong, the body acts weak, even if it's not. If the mind says it's too cold or too rainy or too windy to run, the body will be more than happy to agree. If the mind says it would be better to rest or recover or cut practice, the body will be glad to oblige. My mother says I was born a runner, that I entered this world wanting to get up and go. Kaylee, on the other hand, has always hated running. Not because I love it, but simply because she hates it. She tried it a couple of summers ago, but after a week of easy jogs with me, she asked, "When do you stop counting your steps?" I didn't know how to answer that. I'd never counted steps in my life. So maybe it's something that you're born with, or maybe it's something you adopt. I just know that for me, running was like eating and breathing. It was something I had always done, and without it, I felt miserable, suffocated. Losing a leg was like having to learn to suck in air through the pores of my skin. Somehow I survived, but each breath was painful. And then Kiro showed me the footage of amputees running, and running fast. Air seemed to fill my lungs again. I was heady and happy, and I could feel myself, a future me, running. I want to hold on to that. I want to believe. But $20,000 of reality has sunk in, and my lungs have shut down again. I feel like I'm trapped under a layer of ice, holding on to what little air I have, drowning under a cold, hard ceiling that's keeping me from something that can save me. Chapter 11. After school, Shandel Norwood catches me teetering with uncertainty near the tennis courts. "Hey, girl," she calls and zips over. "Why are you standing out here?" I shrug. "I was going to go to the meet to cheer you guys on, but—" My voice trails off, so she finishes for me. "But you're not sure you can handle it?" Her words come out gentle, like she totally gets it. My throat closes down and my eyes fill up. "Aw, girl," she says, putting her arm around me. "We're gonna get you running again. You know that." I shrug. "Look, if you can't handle going to the meet, don't come. Everyone'll understand." "But it's Langston." She understands this too. Langston's got state-of-the-art everything. From their starting blocks to their jumping standards to their landing systems and cages and hurdles and bleachers, their equipment totally puts Liberty High to shame. It's their track, though, that has us all green with envy. Ours is dirt. Theirs is a tartan track. It's the most amazing track I've ever run on. It's clean, smooth, and fast, and it's a beautiful royal blue. Whenever I race at Langston, I imagine that I'm running across water. It's an incredible feeling. So Langston is our big league rival. And even though they have everything our team would love to have, we have the one thing a team can't buy: spirit. Maybe it's a bond formed from years of running into the wind. Maybe it's because Kiro calls us his family and expects us to treat one another that way. Maybe it's just the fight of the underdog. Whatever it is, we have it, and Langston doesn't. Oh, they act like they do, but you can feel it. It's just a show. Shandel studies me, and very slyly she says, "Yeah, that Vanessa Steele's gonna be prancing all over the place, like she's unbeatable or something, like you never even existed." Blood prickles through my body. Vanessa Steele. She refused to shake my hand after I beat her at the Westfield Invitational. She's probably relieved that I've been knocked out of the competition. I clench my crutches and start in the direction of the track. "Let's go," I tell Shandel. "That a girl," she says, and falls into step beside me. We talk about her events, and I kid her a little about her discus release. Then, when we're near the track, I stop for a moment and soak in the view. The starter's already there, and easy to spot in his red hat and coat, and the Langston teams are trudging through a warm-up lap. Our teams are scattered, warming up in groups, helping Kiro deliver things to the various officials and field judges. There's JV girls, JV boys, varsity girls, varsity boys. 4 teams from each school is a lot to coordinate. "There it is," Shandel says with mock reverence. "The Oval of Pain." I laugh and tell her, "Go on. You've got to warm up, stretch out, and bring home some 5s. "I don't know about that," she says. "But if I get a 3rd and we win by 1, I'm taking credit for the whole shooting match." "You do that," I laugh. She takes off, and I swing forward toward the field. I want to wish my team good luck, and I want to stand among them and somehow believe that I still belong. Chapter 12. I join the pre-meet Liberty huddle, then stay infield to cheer on runners in the 4x100-meter relays and the 1,600-meter runs. The heats go fast. JV girls, JV boys, varsity girls, varsity boys, but each race is still a long process. When the varsity girls line up for the 1600, I head over to Rigor Mortis Bend and shout my heart out for Fiona each time she goes by. She's ahead at the 800-meter mark, but I can see her tighten up during the third lap. She holds on for as long as she can, but at 1400 meters, she loses her head and has to fight with everything she's got to stay in second place. She does get second, though, which brings in 3 points for the team. But she is not happy. "That's 6 seconds slower than my PR," she says, gasping for air when we meet up. "That third lap killed me. I just never recovered." I give her a pep talk and a hug, and after she's caught her breath, she mutters, "Time to play nice with the manipulator," and wanders off to the high jump pit. I don't tag along. I'm feeling kind of worn out, and I'm really not in the mood to make phony chit-chat with Meryl Abrams. Especially since it's pretty hard not to notice that Gavin's over there with her. So when Kiro and some parent helpers start setting up hurdles, I take the opportunity to crutch across the track to the bleachers. Liberty High's track has only one set of bleachers. It's got steps up the middle, which divides it into 2 sections, one for home, one for away. Nobody pays attention to that, though. Even with our standing in league, usually the only people who show up at track meets are dedicated parents, plus the occasional boyfriend or girlfriend. It's not like there are squads of cheering voices. Besides, it's way more important to find a group to huddle with to help body block the rising winds, and some afternoons anyone will do. As I hobble across the track, I feel like I'm getting stares from people in the bleachers. I can see parents whispering to each other about me. Or maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe they're not noticing me at all. I go up the entrance steps, take a seat on the bottom bench, lay my crutches down, and unload my backpack. Then I sit through the 100-meter hurdles for the girls and the 110-meter high hurdles for the boys. There are legs everywhere. I watch them move so effortlessly. Pair after pair of perfectly tuned, beautifully timed legs. How could I never have seen them this way before? In between the races, I watch the high jump pit out in the distance. Gavin's still there. I feel my heartbeat grow faster inside my chest. I try to calm it, but it pounds maddeningly harder. Pretty soon, my breathing turns shallow, and then there's the familiar flutter of butterflies in my stomach. This has nothing to do with Gavin Vance. It has everything to do with the hurdles being cleared. The 400-meter is next. Starting blocks are adjusted, and soon the JV girls shake out and get into position. I grip the rail in front of me as the starter calls. "To your mark. Set." Then the starting gun cracks and my heart gallops away. I want to cheer for the girls. I want to dash to the infield and root them around Rigor Mortis Bend. But all I can do is death grip the rail and fight back the lump in my throat. This is not my heat, but this is my race. My race. There's a soft voice beside me. "Jessica?" I turn and see a woman I don't know sitting beside me. Oh, wait, she is a little familiar. My mind scrambles to remember. She's not one of our runners' moms. She's actually too well put together for any kind of track mom. Her hair's long and sleek with subtle highlights. Her hands are perfectly manicured, but mostly it's her clothes. They're classy. Nothing sweats-like about them. Who is she? "I'm Claudia Steele," she says softly. "Vanessa's mom?" She has her hand out, so I shake it, but I'm stunned. I just want to say how sorry I am, she begins. I move to pull my hand away, but she holds it. I don't know the right words to use, she continues. I don't know if there are right words. In her eyes, I see sincerity. My hand stops pulling. Thanks, I tell her, and for a moment I forget that there's a race going on. She does finally let go of my hand, but she doesn't leave. Through the JV boys race, neither of us says a word. And it's odd to sit through the girls' varsity lineup with her beside me. I wish her away. Her being there is making me terribly uncomfortable. But she just sits there, silently watching as Vanessa adjusts her trademark racing glasses, rolls her shoulders and neck, shakes out her legs, and finally gets down in the blocks. This has to be very hard on you, Mrs. Steele says. I keep my eyes fixed on the runners. Please, I think, just go away. But then out of my mouth slips, this is my first time back. I could kick myself. Why am I talking to her if I want her to go away? The gun goes off and Vanessa shoots from the blocks. She gathers speed and her stride lengthens. Her legs are long, fluid, beautiful. I close my eyes and try to stop my chin from quivering. What made me think I could do this? Vanessa wins the race easily, which gives Langston 5 points. But we get 3 for second and 1 for third, so Langston nets only 1 point. Still, it's hard to take. Especially with my rival's mother sitting beside me. I'm just thinking of an excuse to leave since she's not, when Vanessa comes clomping up the steps. She's still wearing her racing glasses. That track is a joke, she spits out. This whole place is a joke. My time was terrible. I have an urge to flatten her. She's made her mother uncomfortable, too, and I can tell Mrs. Steele wants to say something to her daughter, but before she can, Vanessa holds out a hand. Can I see my phone? Her mother produces it from her purse, and as she's handing it over, she says, You recognize Jessica Carlyle, don't you? Yeah, hey, she says to me, checking for texts. She hands the phone back to her mother, then turns and walks away. Vanessa, her mother calls, but Vanessa says, I've got to get a rub down before the hurdles. Vanessa, her mother snaps, but she doesn't even get acknowledged this time. Excuse my daughter, Mrs. Steele says after a moment. Her hands are shaking as she refastens her purse, and when it's closed, she faces me and says, No, excuse me for raising such a self-absorbed daughter. Then she stands and walks away, leaving me the same way she found me, stunned. Chapter 13. After I get over my shock, I can only think of one thing to do. Tell Fiona. I wait until the next race is over, then crutch across the track and make my way toward the high jump area. Before I can reach it, Gavin intercepts me. It's great to see you out here, he says. It's the first time I've seen him at any meet ever, so I tell him, It's great to see you out here too, but with limited enthusiasm. I nod over at Meryl, who's a few yards away, pulling on her sweats. How'd she do? He glances over his shoulder at her. She tried her best. I hold back a snicker because he seems to really mean it. Meryl's best is about 4'6" and involves a lot of drama. And since high jump is her only event, she's always finding some excuse to leave after she's eliminated. "So, you taking off?" I ask. "Are you kidding? This is Langston. We're the underdogs. We need to win this thing." I give him a curious look. "Wow, Gavin, I had no idea you were so into track." He laughs. "It's sort of contagious, isn't it?" There's a sweetness to the blush of his cheeks that I try very hard to ignore. "You ever thought about running?" He shrugs. "I used to be fast in elementary school, but that was a long time ago, and I don't exactly come from a family of sports people." I eye him. "You can be a politician and run, you know, and I'm not talking about for office." He laughs again, then gives his chin scruff a thoughtful scratch. That's a whole new paradigm, isn't it? Meryl is suddenly upon us. "Hey, Jess," she says, then turns to Gavin. "I have a killer headache. I really need to get home." This creates an awkward moment, so I tell them both, "See ya," and hobble over in time to see Fiona's approach. The bar's at 410, and she flips over it with ease. "Nice," I tell her when she comes back around. They have to cycle through all the remaining jumpers before it's Fiona's turn again, so I've got time to tell her what happened. Guess who sat next to me during the 400? Who? Vanessa Steele's mother. No. She blinks at me. On purpose? So I tell her the whole story from beginning to end, and when I'm done, she gasps. Unbelievable! The whole thing is unbelievable! Bartlett, the pit judge calls. Bartlett, you're up. Gotta go, Fiona says. She takes her mark, composes herself, rocks back and forth a few times, then approaches the bar and flips right over it. She returns to me, breathless. I am so pumped right now, she laughs. Everyone will be when they hear about it. I grab her arm. Wait, no, you can't tell other people. Why not? She asks, incredulous. Because I try to sort things out quickly in my mind, but I don't really know why. It just feels wrong. Because her mom was really nice. So, I think it's, bad karma. She squints at me. Bad karma? Vanessa Steele is what's bad karma. Look, just don't, okay? She sighs. Whatever you say. Then she gets fiery again. But I'm gonna yell my lungs out for Annie and Giselda in the 300 hurdles. I'll yell with you, I say with a laugh, because we always cheer for them. Annie and Giselda are fun and funny and awesome hurdlers. They're just not as good as Vanessa. Chapter 14. It's down to 2 varsity girl high jumpers, Fiona and a Langston jumper named Yassie, when the hurdles are set up again for the 300-meter race. The finish line is very near the high jump area, which is pretty convenient for us, but it's doing nothing for Fiona's concentration. She already missed one pass at 5-2 when the JV girls were hurdling, and when we see varsity line up, she decides she doesn't want to risk missing again. I'll be back in a minute, she tells the pit judge after Yassie has a second miss. Wait, the judge says. Can't you finish your jumps? Give me 2 minutes, she begs, and when he nods, we hurry toward the 200-meter mark as fast as I can. Across the field, Vanessa is making a show of getting into her blocks, running through her psych-out routine. I try telepathing my mantra over to Annie and Giselda. Smooth, strong, fast. Smooth, strong, fast. I think it hard, trying to cancel Vanessa's psych out. The gun goes off, and the girls shoot forward, finding their stride, leaping over the first hurdle, regaining their stride, leaping over the second hurdle. It makes no sense to cheer from so far away, so instead Fiona grumbles, "Who does she think she is? Always wearing those glasses." "Come on, Annie," I'm starting to call. Annie's still too far away to hear me, but I can't help it. "Come on, Annie." They round the bend, and Vanessa's lead is becoming clear. She's in lane 2, with Annie on her right shoulder and Giselda on her left. "Catch her, Annie! You can do it!" I shout, and I find myself hopping up and down on my leg. The sound of their pounding is getting louder, like a stampede. "Go, Annie!" I shout. "You can catch her!" And then, only a few yards away from us, the unthinkable happens. Vanessa's foot catches on her hurdle. Suddenly, she's flailing through the air. The hurdle crashes forward, and although it almost takes Annie out, somehow Annie maneuvers around it and stays in her lane. Giselda nearly wipes out, avoiding Vanessa, but she manages to stay in her lane too. In the time it takes to gasp, the race is over, and to everyone's shock, Liberty has swept the event. Vanessa is back on her feet, and she is furious. "Well, I guess she's okay," Fiona says with a snort. "Man, listen to her." "Wouldn't want her mad at me," I laugh, and we join our winning girls in pogoing around. "Bartlett!" the pit judge hollers. Fiona zips back to the high jump and wins the event by clearing 5-3. And she is so psyched by everything that's happened that she has the bar raised to 5 feet and 4.5 inches and sets a new PR. Then Kiro appears, and although he's congratulatory toward Fiona, I can tell that something's wrong. "What's going on?" I ask him. His lips pinch together for a moment, and then he says, "Langston has lodged a complaint with the Red Hat. Vanessa Steele believes that you were planted on the sidelines to distract her." This takes a minute to sink in. "What?" I ask. "What?" Fiona asks. "What?" everyone around us demands. Kiro lets out a heavy sigh. "I know, but I need to ask, what were you shouting from the sidelines?" "What was I shouting?" I give him an incredulous look. "I don't know. Go, Annie, go? Something like that?" "You weren't yelling at her?" he asks. "No." I look to Fiona for support, and she jumps in with, "Absolutely not. She was rooting for Annie." Kiro takes a deep breath. "Okay, then. The Red Hat called it a ridiculous charge, but I want to set the record straight regardless. I'll have a talk with him and the coach." "Do you want me to come?" I ask. He hesitates, then says, "You know what, that might be a good idea." So I crutch across the field, and in the meeting with the starter and Langston's coach, I explain that I was just rooting for my team like everyone else does. While I'm talking, I can see Vanessa in the background pacing back and forth. Her mother is trying to talk to her, but Vanessa is obviously more interested in watching us than listening to her. Finally, I say, "Look, can you just call Vanessa over? I'll apologize even though I really don't see how her clipping a hurdle was my fault." The Langston coach waves Vanessa over, and with her mother's nudging, she joins us. She's still got her sunglasses on, so it's hard to make eye contact with her, but I look straight at the lenses and say, "Hey, Vanessa, I was just cheering on my own team. I'm sorry if I was a distraction to you." She doesn't say a thing. I give her a little shrug and chuckle, and I try to make light of it. "I guess I'm probably a distraction to everybody, huh?" A heartbeat passes. That's all. Then she turns to the starter and says, "So why is she here? If she knows she's a distraction to everyone, why is she here? I feel my body flush hot. Kiro steps forward. Because she's still part of our team, that's why. It's obvious that Vanessa's thinking, oh, right. And that's when it sinks in. I'm not really part of the team. Not anymore. My eyes burn as I hurry away. It was a nice fantasy, but that's all it was. I'm still in a complete funk the next day and in no mood for icy Miss Rucker. Jessica, she says after the tardy bell rings, when are you planning to return to your regular seat? It's true that I'm moving around on my crutches much better than I used to. It's true that the reason she sat me back with Rosa was because I was in a wheelchair. It's true that other people with crutches just sit in their regular seats. And I am getting my leg today. But days ago, I decided I'm staying at Rosa's table, even when I'm walking again. I'm staying. I'm not, I tell her. And I'm surprised by the sound of my own voice. It's confident, with a twinge of defiance. Miss Rucker holds my gaze. I think it might be better for Rosa if you took your assigned seat. No, Rosa says, and everyone turns to look at her. I like her here, Rosa says in her underwatery tones. Please. Miss Rucker frowns, then looks from me to Rosa and back again. Then the note writing has got to stop. I look at Rosa. Rosa looks at me. Our faces both say, oops. Fine, I say to Miss Rucker, but she's just been helping me keep up. Rosa's a math genius, you know. Miss Rucker studies me. Yes, I'm aware of that, she says, and decides not to argue with me about the content of our notes, even though she knows I'm fibbing. Math lab would be a more constructive option, she says with one eyebrow arched high. Then she begins writing on the board. Rosa immediately slips me a note. Thanks. I smile at her, and for the first time since the track meet, I smile inside, too. Chapter 16. Mom notices how quiet I am as she drives me to Hank's. Are you okay? I nod, but say, I don't understand how this fake leg is going to work. What if I can't make it work? You'll figure it out, sweetheart. Remember Chloe, okay? We couldn't even tell. That does help. And Chloe's her usual bubbly self when she sees us, which helps too. Today's the day, she says as we check in. Did you bring shorts and your right shoe? I nod and hold them up. Can I change? We came straight from school. She leads me to a small bathroom, and on the way she says, It'll feel weird at first, but don't be discouraged. I know you'll get the hang of it fast, and once you do, you'll be walking everywhere. She says it quietly, conspiratorially, like she's sharing a secret, like we're friends. She takes my right running shoe from me. You'll definitely use a cane or a crutch at first, but you'll get rid of that in no time. Thanks, I tell her, and I'm grateful to hear this from someone who knows, someone I believe. After I've changed into shorts, Chloe waves me down to a room with mirrored walls and long parallel bars. The bars are at about hip height and maybe 3 feet apart. It looks remotely like a dance studio. Only instead of tutus, there are miscellaneous fake body parts here and there, and the only dancers are Hank and my mother. Their conversation stops immediately when I walk in. Hank picks up a fake leg from against the wall and smiles at me. Time to get you walking again. It looks like a mannequin's foot with a metal pipe sticking out of it. The pipe is about 8 inches long and an inch and a half in diameter, with 2 metal connectors, one down by the foot and one up where the pipe attaches to the socket. The connectors have little holes and divots in them and look like strange plumbing couplings, like something my dad might use under a sink. On top of the pole is the finished socket. It's skin-colored and is cut away at the knee, so it looks like a kind of stirrup for my leg. He grins at me as I soak it all in. Yes, it's a little Hankensteinish, but... My focus snaps to my mom. You told him? She looks chagrined, but he says, I laughed my head off, Jessica. I might even change the name of my business to Hankenstein's, but unfortunately, most of my clients aren't in the frame of mind for such humor. He eyes me. It's a really good sign that you are. I'm still embarrassed, but I nod and say, So what do I do? He has me take off my left shoe and sit in a chair that's right by the parallel bars. Then he hands me a tube-shaped nylon to put over my stump, and he has me put a stump sock on over the nylon. It's like a regular sock, only with no heel shape or seam. It's also softer and stretchier than a regular sock. Now for the liner, he says, and pulls a white foamy-looking thing out of the socket of my fake leg. He hands over the liner and says, Just slip this on and tell me how it feels. Is it supposed to be snug? I ask. It feels a little loose. He takes it off and has me put on a thicker ply sock, then put the liner on again. This time it seems to fit better, so he holds the fake leg so that the open end of the socket is facing my stump and says, Just put your leg inside. I do, and it's a snug, comfortable fit. But it's very strange to look down and see a pipe leg and a fake foot attached to me. How does it stay on? I ask, because it sure doesn't seem like I could actually walk with it. We'll get to that in a minute. First, I want to check the fit. He pushes and twists the socket, and when he's sure it's okay, he pulls the leg off and says, We're going to use a suspension sleeve to hold the leg in place. He picks up a tan, rubbery-looking sleeve and starts pulling it onto the outside of the socket. This is a neoprene material, like what wetsuits are made of. The sleeve will create a vacuum between you and your prosthetic leg that will hold it firmly in place. He doubles the sleeve back over the socket, then holds the leg out for me. If I can get you to slip your leg in. So I do, and then he has me pull the doubled back part of the sleeve up over my leg. It's like a big rubbery sock that ends about mid-thigh and seems to suck the fake leg on tight. Ready to stand? He asks. I guess so, I answer, but then I just sit there, frozen in place. Use the bars if you want to. Just stand like you remember doing. It's strange. It's like my brain doesn't quite remember what it used to do. I've been hopping and crunching for so long, getting up and down differently, I'm almost afraid to try. So I grab the bars and I use my left leg to power myself up. Put weight on it, he encourages me. It shouldn't hurt. But I'm not so much afraid of the pain as I am of not being able to work this pipe leg. I get a rush of panic. How is this ever going to work? How am I ever going to be able to walk on this thing? Slowly, I put my weight on my right leg. It takes a minute for my leg to settle in, and when it does, I feel lopsided, like my fake leg is way too long. Is your weight distributed evenly? Hank asks. When I nod, he says, I'm going to check the height now, and puts his thumbs on the crest points of my hip bones. The leg feels way too long, I tell him. He nods knowingly. That's normal. You've had no resistance or pressure on that leg for quite some time, so even when it's perfect, patients still say it feels long. He smiles at me. But in this case, it is long. He takes a thin wooden block and slips it under my good foot, then checks my hip bones again. By raising the left side, he says, I'll know how much I have to shorten the pylon. After a minute of assessing how level I am, he takes another, thinner block and slips it under my left foot so that it's on top of the first block. Very good, he says after checking the level again. The first block was 1/2 inch, the second one 1/4 inch, which means we've got to take the pylon down 3/4 inch. He has me sit down and use an Allen wrench to loosen the top coupling. Then he removes the pipe from the socket. The foot is still attached to the bottom end of the pipe, and having him do this feels strange, like I'm some sort of doll where the parts snap on and off. He leaves the room with the pipe and foot, and before long he's back. Let's try this, he says, and reattaches the pipe to the socket. I stand up again, and even though the leg still feels long, he checks the level and says, Perfect. Are you sure? I ask. I am, don't worry. That feeling of it being too long will go away. Then he says, Now, what I want you to do is hold on to the bars and just rock back and forth on one foot, then the other. I do this, and what's so surreal is that I can feel my foot. It's not there. I know it's not there, but as I'm rocking back and forth, my brain seems to be sighing with relief. Oh, there it is. How's that? Hank asks. Is it supposed to feel like my foot is there? I ask quietly. Does it? He asks in return. I nod, then look at him. He's smiling. It's not the case for everyone, that's for sure, but I find that the patients who have that sensation adapt much more quickly than those who don't. But why does it feel that way? Your brain is still wired to your having a foot. He shrugs. The body's nerves send signals and the brain adapts or reacts. That can be a phantom pain or simply feeling like a limb is still there. It's not entirely understood, but if your brain thinks your prosthetic foot is your real foot, that's a very good sign. I glance at my mother, and she's looking a little tense, but also pleased. All right, Hank says. Now I want you to put your left foot forward, then pull it back. Put your right foot forward, pull it back. Don't go anywhere, just do a little hokey pokey for me. So I do, and each time I put my right leg out and back, I feel a little more confident. Let's try a few steps, he says when I've hokey pokeyed enough. Hold on to the rails and move forward. The biggest obstacle is fear, and you have no reason to be afraid. Just do what your body remembers. And so I take my first step, and my second step, and my third. The fake leg feels snug, solid. I can't roll off the foot like I can with my regular leg, but I move forward step by step until suddenly I'm at the end of the bars. I look up and see my reflection in the mirror. My new leg is not a pretty sight. but it doesn't freak me out. I turn around, and there's my mother and Hank standing at the opposite end. My mother has a look on her face that's hard to define. Hope, anticipation, worry. I feel like I'm her baby again, taking my first wobbly steps. I take a deep breath, then loosen my grip on the bars. 2 steps forward, my hands are hovering above the bars. I take 2 more steps. And 2 more. Tears sting my eyes. I'm walking. Chapter 17. It's almost another hour of adjustments and testing and warnings about not overdoing it, watching for hot spots and avoiding stump blisters at all cost before I walk out of there. But I do walk out of there. Hank has given me a cane, so I use it for stability, and although I'm not entirely confident or even competent, I want to walk. And Hank tells me that's 90% of the battle won. On the way home, Mom has the brilliant idea that what I need are some of those warm-up pants with zippers that run all the way up to the sides of the legs. So we drive downtown to the sports stop, and since I'm still in my shorts, I have her go in without me. She returns with 2 pairs. One's royal blue and gold, Liberty colors. The other is black with white trim. These are perfect, I tell her, and she seems happy. Really happy. Dad's happy to see me moving on both legs too, but he's also fascinated by the leg itself. He wants to hear all about the fitting and the adjustments and how the suction sleeve works, and when he's up to speed on the mechanics of it, he makes me walk across the kitchen about 6 times. I think for the first time in ages, he sees hope. Kaylee's like, "Wow, you are going to have so much fun on Halloween." I give her a friendly punch in the arm for that. And when Fiona hears I'm home and walking, she drops everything and rushes over to the house. "I'll get it," I call when the doorbell rings. I've switched into my new warm-up pants, so when Fiona takes me in, all she sees is me and my Nikes. Exactly how I used to look. I step back and say, "Come on in." I try hard to make my gait even as we walk down the hallway. Hank said it's the one thing that gives you away, but that by paying close attention and watching yourself in the mirror, you can master an even gait. There are no mirrors, so I can't see how I'm doing, but Fiona has a definite opinion. "That's amazing," she says, following me into the kitchen. "She's showing off," my mom scolds. "She's supposed to be carrying a cane." "Wow," Fiona says, watching me. "Wow, wow, wow." Then I sit down and unzip my pant leg, and her face falls. "It's just a pipe? Aren't they going to, make it look like a leg?" I shrug. "This one's temporary, and I have to go in every week for adjustments, so it's just a lot more practical to have it like this." "So when do you get your permanent leg?" "It depends. Hank thinks I'll be ready in 2 or 3 months. They want to make sure my leg is all done changing." I zip down my pant leg and smile at her. In the meantime, it's good to be walking around. "Hey," she says, getting all excited, "you have got to show up at the car wash tomorrow, walking. Kiro will be floored, and the car wash is going to be great. Kiro had this huge blue and gold banner made. It says, 'Help Jessica Run,' and the car wash committee voted to wear track uniforms, so we'll be color coordinated with the sign." I laugh. "You want to be color coordinated with a sign?" She scowls at me. It'll make us more visible and show that we're a team, working toward something. Wait, I thought you were on the bake sale committee. She grins. Come on, I'm on all the committees. I laugh. Figures. So you'll come? How could I not? I hug her and tell her I'll be there. Chapter 18. It's amazing how two thin pieces of clothing can hold such deep memories. Laughter, pain, victory, defeat, friendship, fatigue, elation. They're all there. But only to the person who's worn the uniform. To the rest of the world, it's simply shorts and a tank top. Fiona told me to wear them to the car wash, but holding the gold shorts and Liberty singlet now makes me feel like an imposter. Still, I finally take a deep breath and pull them on. The fabric is cool and smooth against my skin. Memories tingle through me. I sit on the edge of my bed for a long time, fighting back tears. Why am I wearing a track uniform? What am I thinking? Each of yesterday's steps was careful, calculated, conscious. I can't see them ever being anything but. That's just walking. Then I remember Chloe and the YouTube athletes. They make movement, running, look so natural, so easy. How do they do that? I finally put on my leg and pull on my new blue and gold side-zip sweats. I feel better covered up, like less of an imposter. Going downstairs, I navigate the steps carefully. I feel clunky and clumsy and slow, and I'm glad for the handrail. I actually think about sitting and scooting, but I do make it down without cheating. I find my parents in the kitchen. So, who wants to drive me to the car wash? I ask, putting on a brave face. Or can I just drive myself? I'm joking, but Dad takes me seriously. I'll drive you, he says quickly, and before long we're on our way to the gas station on the corner of Grand and Highland. The first thing I see is the banner. Help Jessica Run. The colors are bright, and it's way bigger than I'd imagined, and it's strange to see my name up there, like it must be another Jessica, not me. There are blue and yellow balloons punching around in the wind, and two bake sale tables set up with blue and yellow tablecloths, and about 25 or 30 people in blue and gold track uniforms. Some of the runners are washing cars, some are working the bake sale tables, and some are holding poster board signs and shouting at cars from the corner. Wow, my dad says when he sees the setup. How lucky am I, huh? He gives me a curious look, but then nods as he turns into the parking lot. Luckier than I knew. He pulls to a stop and asks, Is this good? Great. You need help? I open the van door and carefully step down. Nope, I say from the ground. Then I grab my cane, blow him a kiss, and close the door. Chapter 19. I get mobbed by my teammates, and of course they all want to see the leg. Until they do. The girls try not to show it, but they are horrified. Oh my God, it's just a pipe. Aren't they going to make it look, real? The guys, though, think it's wicked cool. That is tight, man. Yas, dude, come here, check out Jessica's leg. Wow, that is crazy. That's like Terminator tough. I tell myself that the guys being wowed and the girls being revolted is better than the other way around, but both extremes are a little much. Kiro intervenes. Hey, people, get back to your posts. We're trying to make some money here. Everyone but Fiona scatters, and he smiles at me and says, It's great to see you out here, and it's great to see you in uniform. Her idea, I say, hitching a thumb at Fiona. Well, it's a good one. I zip down my pant leg and say, It's not pretty, I know, but it's nice to be able to walk again. I'll bet it is, he says with a laugh, and it is the first step to running again. He looks around. Good turnout, huh? I nod. Even Merrill is there, working the bake sale table. But after a while, it becomes clear that the turnout is really mostly people from the track team and their parents. I help out at the different tables and talk to people, but after about being there almost an hour, I'm getting the picture that there's not enough work to go around. Then I hear, Hey, Jessica, from across the lot. Yeah? I call back. Get over here. It's Graham the Blau and Mario Reed. Graham's a vaulter, Mario's a sprinter. Right now, they're both wavers, flagging me out to the sidewalk. So Fiona and I make our way over to them. You're wearing shorts, right? Graham asks. I nod. So take off those sweats and stand here with us. Mario adds, A lot more people will stop. I blink at them. No way. I'd be like a freak show. Look, Graham says, how are people supposed to understand what we're doing? How are they supposed to know who Jessica is? Yeah, Mario chimes in. Maybe the bus wreck was in the news, but people forget. I look at Fiona for help, but she just shrugs and says, I totally get why you wouldn't want to, but it would explain more than any sign, that's for sure. 2 other runners have been listening in, Colin Johnson and Melania Mata. Colin says, You should also hold a sign that says, I'm Jessica. No, I snap. How about one that says, Help me run? Melanie suggests. I cringe. I would feel like a beggar. Look, Graham says, you need to help us out here. What they're saying is true. I know it is. But standing on the street with my pipe leg and a sign, it would be so embarrassing. So icky. Still, they're all doing this for me. Shouldn't I be helping out the best way I can? How about a sign that says, I want to run again? Fiona asks quietly. That's not begging. That's just stating a simple fact. I look around at their expectant faces. I do want to run again. I do want to help. I take a deep breath. Okay, somebody make me a sign. Chapter 20. Having me out on the sidewalk works. It also almost causes a couple of fender benders. I guess carrying a sign gives people license to stare, double take, and rubberneck. There are no actual accidents, though, just a steady stream of customers. A lot of them aren't so much interested in getting their car washed as they are in writing a check. I see them talking to Kiro. I see them glancing at me. I see them shaking their heads and pulling out their wallets. Some of them even come up to me and tell me stories about their uncle or their dad or their army buddy who served in Iraq. They treat me like they've known me my whole life. I guess they're trying to make me feel better, or not alone. But it's kind of bizarre to have people I don't even know telling me these personal stories, especially the gruesome ones about Iraq. I'm not up for hearing all those details, but what am I supposed to do? I just smile and nod and take it. Then Gavin Vance arrives. I'm suddenly and completely embarrassed. I want to pull on my sweats, hide, I try to get back to simply holding my sign, but I can't help sneaking looks at him. He hugs Meryl, who is ecstatic to see him. They laugh, hold hands. She feeds him a brownie. I force myself to stop looking, but I can't seem to quit wondering if any guy, Gavin or otherwise, will ever look at me, will ever want me. It's not the first time I've thought this, but seeing Gavin and Meryl together makes the thought feel so raw. I glance over my shoulder again and see that Gavin's now talking to Kiro. A minute later, he's still talking to Kiro. Fiona's been observing all this too, and when Gavin starts to leave, she mutters, "He couldn't even come over and say hi?" But Gavin doesn't go back to his car. He dashes across the street while traffic is held back by the red light. "What is he doing?" Fiona asks. "Running?" I say with a twinge of sarcasm. When he gets to the center divider, he turns and faces us, then produces a camera and motions for us to hold our signs higher. "Oh," Fiona says, "newspaper." I'm really upset now. I don't want to be seen like this in the school newspaper. "It'll get donations," Fiona says, and nudges my arm up. "Just hold up your sign." Before I can even think to yell, "Hey, you need my permission to do that," Gavin has already taken some shots and is running back across the street. And in a flash, he's inside his car and driving away. I don't say anything, but I'm kind of mad at Fiona. And I'm really mad at Gavin. He should have at least asked. So I decide, Monday morning, I'm going to find him and put a stop to him using those pictures. Chapter 21. The car wash event brings in a whopping $876.50. I'm amazed. Kiro's pleased, the team's excited, and my dad is very impressed. $876, he asks on the way home. "And 50 cents, I add. "Someone baked that extra brownie, you know. It counts." He smiles and nods. Let's not forget the 50 cents. But after I'm home for a little while, I start feeling deflated and sore. I can't walk evenly. My body is tender all over. My stump is throbbing. I need to take my leg off and rest. By bedtime, I realize that I way overdid it. I fall asleep easily, but I don't sleep well. It hurts to roll over. I'm too hot, then too cold. And then I have the running dream again. Only this time I'm not really running. I'm clomping. Sherlock is barking at me to hurry up. He runs ahead, turns, barks, runs ahead, turns, barks. I know what he's saying. "Come on, let's go, let's go." But I can't. No matter how hard I try, all I can do is clomp along. Clomp, clomp, clomp. I look down and see my leg. It's just a big steel pipe. No foot, no shoe. Clomp, clomp, clomp. Bark, bark, bark. Clomp, clomp, clomp. Bark, bark, bark. Clomp, clomp. I wake up with a jolt to find my mother on the edge of my bed. She's holding the phone and the Sunday paper, which is still in its dew-proof bag. "Sorry to wake you," she whispers. "That's okay," I murmur, glad to be out of the dream. She hands over the phone. "It's Fiona. She says it's important and that I should give you this." She puts the newspaper next to me. "Hello?" I say into the phone. "Have you opened the paper?" she asks. "No," I mumble. "I'm still asleep." I eye the clock. It's not even 7. "Well, wake up. You are on the front page of the community section," I am? I asked, still groggy. How? Gavin wrote an article. It's amazing. Now I'm awake. Gavin did? Yes, and there's a huge picture of you. Open the paper. Mom's giving me a questioning look, so I tell her, Can you open the paper? Go to the community section. Section C, Fiona says in my ear. But my mom finds the section without any extra help. She pulls it out, unfolds it, and we both gasp. There's an enormous picture of me, just me, holding up my sign. I want to run again. So much for my stopping him from using the picture. But strangely, I'm not mad. I'm more in shock. Fiona can tell we've found the article. Call me back when you've read it, she says with a laugh, then hangs up. The headline is Getting Back on Track. The byline is Gavin R. Vance. Mom's hands are shaking, so I snatch the paper from her and hold it steady so we both can read. Jessica Carlisle was a world-class runner, or according to her track coach, Leonard Kirokowski, well on her way to becoming one. She set a new league record in the 400-meter race just hours before the accident. She had the discipline, the determination, she had incredible potential. The accident to which Kirokowski refers involved a school bus transporting the Liberty High School track teams and an uninsured junkyard hauler named Jack Lowe. Even if I didn't know you, my mom whispers, I'd read this article. It pulls you right in. Shh, I tell her. And together we continue to read all about the accident and the track team's quest to buy me a running leg. There's a nice, smaller picture of the track team working the car wash and a sidebar that has the heading, Help Jessica Run Again, and gives the school's contact information for anyone who wants to donate money. The whole page is put together very well, but it's the closing part of the article that really gets me. Jessica Carlisle may have lost a leg, but she has not lost her spirit. Last Thursday, she was back at the track, cheering from the sidelines as her teammates battled Langston High in a dual league meet. Next year, she'd like to be back on the track, running. This is a wonderful piece, my mother sniffs, brushing away a tear. She points to the byline. Do you know the writer? I hesitate. Do I know him? He gives amazing speeches, writes fantastic op-eds and now newspaper features, spearheads community warmth drives, and he dates a manipulative ditz. My mother prompts, You said Gavin did? To Fiona? I concede with a little nod. He's in our class, but I don't really know him. Well, she says, easing the paper away from me, I'm sure Kiro has his number. You should call him. This definitely deserves a thank you. She leaves, no doubt to show Dad the article, and I know I should be calling Fiona back, but I just sit there for the longest time, trying to sort through the collision of feelings I have about Gavin Vance. Chapter 22. I do try to reach Gavin, but the message machine seems to be the only one home. I hang up the first couple of times, but on my third try I leave a message. It's a pretty lame one. Incoherent, really. And right before I hang up, I rattle off my phone number, then immediately wish I hadn't. What's he supposed to call back for? To tell me to learn to leave a message? I don't even want him to call back. I already said thank you. What's left to say? Still, every time the phone rings, I jump a little. Every time it turns out to be someone else on the line, I scold myself. But Monday morning, when he sees me from across the courtyard and leaves Meryl's side to come talk to me, I feel my cheeks flush. I try to be cool and blithely witty as we talk, but me making him laugh makes me laugh. And when he finally goes back to Meryl, I realize that my eyes are shining and my cheeks ache from smiling so much. Suddenly, I feel like crying. What an idiot I am. I escape the courtyard, and for the rest of the week, I avoid him. I stay away from the main hangouts, I hide out in Kiro's classroom, or drag Fiona into room 402 at lunch, and I focus on important things, like schoolwork and walking. Especially walking. I work really hard on my gait, on my roll-off, on mastering ramps. By Thursday, I'm confident enough to leave my cane at home, which feels like a huge step forward. And random people I don't even know tell me how awesome it is to see me walking. But then comes a huge step back. At lunch, Kiro breaks it to Fiona and me that Gavin's newspaper article has brought in only $40. I don't understand it, he says, raking his long fingers along his hair. I was sure there would be an outpouring of goodwill. Maybe it's still coming? Fiona says. He sighs. Let's hope. Unfortunately, there's often a deep, wide abyss between good intentions and concrete action. And as unfair as it is, after a few days, any story becomes old news. He looks at me. It's disappointing, but don't worry. We'll raise the money. Still, I can't help but be discouraged. And Rosa picks up on my mood in math. What's wrong? She writes in a note. The running leg's a pipe dream. She slips the note back. So was walking. Miss Rucker is watching me, so I hide the note and focus on the board. Until Rosa slides another note my way. Don't look so far ahead. I slip the note into my backpack and find my mood spiraling even further downward. Looking ahead is what's been giving me hope. I've wanted to believe that somehow we'll be able to gather $20,000. I've wanted to believe that I'll run again. But hope now feels so fragile. Too fragile to touch. Chapter 23. After school, I see the track teams loading onto a bus. I stand in the distance and watch, feeling cold and shaky. How can they even get on a bus? I remind myself that it's not their first away meet since the wreck. There have been 2 of them, plus the Glenwood relays. For them, the memory must be fading. For me, it feels like yesterday. And every tomorrow, for as far as I can see. Chapter 24. Friday, when I visit Hank, he's very impressed. Fantastic, he says over and over. Now that's progress. My mom and I exchange glances, and I can tell she's thinking what I'm thinking. Hank seems so different. It's like he's come to life because the monster he's built has come to life. He makes a lot of little adjustments with his Allen wrench, twisting it inside the little holes in the pipe couplings as he throws around words like adduction and abduction, dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, inversion and eversion. He makes me walk, he adjusts, he makes me walk, he adjusts, and when he's finally done, he smiles at me. I saw the article in the paper. Great piece. And if your progress this week is any indication, I have no doubt that you will be running again. Soon. Thanks, I tell him. And it's nice to see him so enthused. The problem, though, is that his enthusiasm doesn't stick on me. It's been a long, hard week, and all I can seem to see is that I'm still having trouble walking.